What's going on, everyone? My name's Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video, and today we're talking fantasy Premier League players to avoid, at least for game week 1. Not saying you have to go without these players for the whole season, but for game week 1 I think there's better alternatives which we're going to talk about, and these are mostly players with quite a high ownership already, so we'll go through those and talk about who you might be able to go for instead. Just before we jump into it, just to say the support on the last video was incredible. I think we're up to almost 1,000 likes, which is ridiculous. So if we can get anywhere near that for this one, that would be great. So if you do enjoy the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new around here. Lots more content to come. But for now, let's jump into this one. So like Jimenez, Doherty was a bit of a legend last season and did incredible, to be fair. 144 points, 8 clean sheets, 4 goals and 7 assists. Was a really good return for a player that some of us, like me, picked up for 4.4 million. So we knew he was going to get a price rise this season. There was no doubt about that. But I think in general, Wolves players, apart from maybe Jota and Jimenez, and perhaps Dendoncker for a really cheap midfielder, have been pretty overpriced. The defence in particular is very, very expensive. I knew we'd go up to at least 5, maybe even 5.5, but 6 million just feels a little tough. Now, there are some reasons why that's happened, and maybe I'm being a bit harsh. He had the most goal attempts for defenders last year, the most shots in the box. Aside from Lucas Digne, he was right up there for chances created as well. So in terms of attacking, he was brilliant. Obviously played that wing-back position, and there's no real reason why he wouldn't be able to do it again this year. The thing for me is he's 6 million now, so you've got to compare him to other 6 million defenders. So to give you some idea, his points per match last year were 3.8. Lucas Digne, 4.5. Walker, who's the same price for Man City, 4.5. David Luiz was 4.6. Coleman, who's 0.5 million cheaper, was 4.3. And even Michael Keane, who again is 0.5 million cheaper at Everton, was 3.9. So lots of the defenders at the similar price bracket he is this year beat him in terms of points per match. If Wolves qualify for Europe as well, that's going to be a little bit of a worry. We'll have to see how much they strengthen their squad. And if they do, maybe they'll be able to cope with it. We'll have to see how far through they get with that. But I just think with the fixtures they got as well, Leicester away, Man United at home, Burnley at home is decent enough, and then Everton away. That's 3 fairly tricky fixtures to start the season. So I don't know if he warrants a 15.4% ownership. I expect that to go down a bit by game week 1. But given he did so well last year, obviously he's in a lot of people's memories for being a great pick. I expect that's why he's quite highly owned now. But for 6 million, I think it's absolute no-go for me, especially at the start of the season. Maybe down the line, if he can go and get 3 or 4 game weeks in a row where he gets double-figure hauls, which he did last year, then obviously he's a great pick for 6 million. But I'm just not sure that consistency is going to be there, as shown by his points per match. So for the observant in you, this shouldn't really matter too much. Son should definitely not be in your squads, mostly because he misses the first 2 game weeks through suspension. Yeah, he's still owned by 1.3%. So this is the lowest owned player on my list of 5. But for sure, you should not have him in your team. Yes, they play Villa at home, Man City away, but he's not going to play, so he's no good. Now, after that, definitely not saying we write him off for the whole season. The next 4 fixtures after the 2 he misses, so game weeks 3 to 6, got Newcastle, Arsenal, Palace and Leicester. So a bit of a mix. The Arsenal and Leicester games are away, the other 2 are at home. They're decent enough. And when he comes in at 9.5 million, he's the most expensive midfielder at Spurs, but I think the returns are there for that price. So you see he can be explosive, he can be consistent when he gets minutes in the team. And obviously last year we saw that quite a bit. He was out of the team playing the Asia Cup and stuff like that. So he was in and out a bit. Whereas this season, once his suspension's up, he should be fit and raring to go. And depending on who they buy, you'd expect him to be a pretty regular starter. Now, you've got Lucas Moura there as well, who can step in and play from time to time. You'd imagine, again, unless they buy anyone, it'll be Kane, Eriksen, Ali and Son as the front 4. But you may see rest from time to time. So for game week 1, he's an absolute no-go. But 12 goals, 8 assists again last year, 159 points was a pretty decent return. And if he starts the season well and carries on his place throughout the whole season, he'll probably be one of the best midfielders again this year, given how well he can do for that price range. So 9.5 is a really good price, but you can't start the season with him. That being said, because he's going to miss out on those games, it does mean someone like Lucas Moura is more likely to play in those fixtures. And so with Villa at home, that could be a really nice way to get in on the Spurs players against the newly promoted teams. Obviously, a lot of people are looking at Kane, but some people, especially if they're going Sterling and Salah, won't be able to fit in Kane with a premium defence. So he's not going to be in a lot of teams, I don't think. We'll have to see in game week 1. So if you want to get a Spurs player in and you can't afford Kane, then Lucas Moura could be a really solid pick. So Son definitely not for game week 1, but one to look at from game week 3 onwards. And Lucas Moura from game week 1 could be a real bargain. We saw him score a few hat-tricks last season. So it pains me to say this a bit, but obviously Wan-Bissaka's finally signed for Man United. I think it's a really good sign, and I'm happy that the deal's been done. In terms of FPL though, for me this is an absolute wait and see. I would not be on him straight away in game week 1, I don't think. 5.5 million obviously was priced at Palace because they knew he was probably going to go to Man United, and so 5.5 puts him up with the likes of Shaw and Lindelof, so they're all kind of the same price because they're likely to be the first choice starters. But he's owned by 34.1%, so a bit like Doherty. Obviously there's a lot of Man United fans out there, and we always see their players picked quite highly regardless of how poor they were, like last season. And obviously he's fresh in everyone's minds because he did so well last year. 4 million was absolute bargain and had to be in your teams in game week 1 and throughout pretty much the whole season. This year obviously he's 1.5 million more. He did get 12 clean sheets. Man United only got 8. So the key question is, do you think Man United are going to do as bad as they did last year? And a lot of it is going to depend on the defence. And obviously Wan-Bissaka is a big upgrade on Ashley Young. We don't know how well attacking-wise he'll do. Obviously he's a young player. And hopefully he can develop that side of his game. But he's definitely a defensive fullback. Just 3 assists last year. But he helped them get to 12 clean sheets, which was 4 more than Man United. And obviously we've all seen the stats about how no one can dribble past him, or they can very rarely. So he's definitely going to improve Man United defensively. David De Gea, for example, had a really poor season last year, made lots of mistakes, whereas the year before he was Superman. So will he kind of regress to somewhere in the middle? Obviously he's a top-class keeper. But I personally don't think he's going to have another bad season like he did last year. Yes, he might not be Superman like the season before, but he can get back up to his normal level, and then hopefully help us keep some clean sheets. But for me, the fixtures aren't good enough to start off with him. Chelsea and Wolves, Palace and Southampton, 2 away games that are tough enough, and Chelsea at Old Trafford to open up the season. And not good enough fixtures for me to jump on, I don't think, at 5.5 million. I want to see how the defence does. And obviously, transfer window-wise, we need another centre-back. Man United need another centre-back. There's rumours that they've gone for Maguire, 70 million bid. As of recording this video, we'll have to wait and see if that goes through. And if he goes through, then him and Lindelof, Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw, that's much stronger than it was last year for Man United. But obviously you just don't know how well they're going to gel, how long it's going to take for them to get some form together, and they don't really have the fixtures to kind of gel at the start. So for me, 34.1% I think is a little bit over the top for Wan-Bissaka. I'm sure he's going to be an option at some point this season. I'm sure I'll probably want him, but not for game week 1. So although his ownership isn't quite as high as it's been at the previous starts of FPL launching, it's still at 15.1%, and Kante is always well picked. I guess because he's a well-known player that's very cheap in a top 6 side, and kind of everyone knows him. But in terms of FPL potential, I'm not sure there's much there. Now, last season, he did get 4 goals, 4 assists, so 8 attacking returns altogether. To put that in perspective, the previous 3 seasons, he got 3, 2 and 5, so that's attacking returns. So 8 was his highest, but we know under Sarri he was given a bit more of an attacking licence, and Jorginho was the player that kind of stayed back. Now, under a new manager, whoever that might be, obviously there's still lots of rumours it's going to be Lampard, but we're not quite sure yet. I would expect him to play more of a kind of central defensive midfielder role that we've seen him do the first season at Chelsea and at Leicester, where obviously he excelled. And I think a lot of people think that's his best position rather than trying to join the attack. So I would expect those attacking returns to go down. I don't really expect them to go up, that's for sure. Now, one of the reasons people like him, obviously, he's only 5 million. So if you're looking for a 5 million mid, he's arguably actually the best. So I will caveat this, saying to avoid him, because he got 3.2 points per match last year, which is actually the best on par with Noble for West Ham. But I just think that his attacking returns, Kante that is, are going to drop slightly this year. Yes, he's going to play every game. If the attacking returns drop and Noble's still on penalties and playing week in, week out, then I think even Noble could be a better option at 5 million. And that's if you're going to play them. If you're not going to play this position, say you're playing like a 3-4-3 or a 4-4-2, something like that, and Kante is on your bench, then for me, I'd much rather spend 4.5 million on someone like Dendoncker at Wolves, who will hopefully keep starting. He did at the back end of last season. I think he started like 20 or 21 of the last 22 matches, something like that. But he should start the season pretty well, and he's got a little bit of goal threat as well. Obviously plays in midfield like Kante. So for 0.5 million less, if you're just putting this player on the bench, I'd prefer to spend that elsewhere on my first 11 and try and get the most points I can on the pitch. So under the new manager, I don't expect him to attack as much. I think for 5 million, if you're not playing him, I'd personally rather spend 4.5. Not saying he's a complete avoid. If you're trying to put money elsewhere and you're going to play him week in, week out in that 4th midfield position, then maybe he is the best alongside Noble. But outside of that, I just wouldn't go for him. I think it's fair to say that Shane Long isn't the most prolific striker in Premier League history. His tally of 5 goals and 2 assists last year was his best returns for 3 seasons. To be fair to him, the season before that he did get 10 goals, 4 assists, but I'm not convinced he's going to return to that kind of form for Southampton next season. He's owned by 8.6%, and I think a lot of that is because at the end of last season he was getting a bit more of regular minutes. So like Kante, he's one of the cheaper forwards that's potentially going to get some minutes. The difference is Kante you'd expect to start week in, week out. Shane Long, I'm just not sure that's going to happen. If Ings is fit, then he's probably the #1 striker. They've also bought Che Adams as well, and those two both come in at 6 million. You'd expect both of them to probably be ahead in the pecking order when it comes to Shane Long. So for me, 5 million is a lot of money and 8.6% ownership. Again, I feel like he's going to become bench fodder. I don't think most people are putting him in their team for kind of a 3-4-3 or a 4-4-2 with him being playable. So if you're not going to play him, then I'd almost go for a 4.5 million forward. Now I know from looking at it, it looks like none of the 4.5 million forwards are going to be regular starters either. If Shane Long's not going to be as well, then I'd rather save the 0.5 million and put that into my team elsewhere. And Southampton's fixtures are not great to start with. Burnley away is a tricky enough fixture. Then Liverpool and Man United at home, their first 2 home games, is not something you'd want to be playing him in. So I don't know if he's going to beat 5 goals, 2 assists this season. I wouldn't put too much money on it given what his track record is like. And given that they've permanently signed Ings now, when he's fit, he's really the go-to. And if Che Adams can come in and do well as well, then Shane Long's going to find it hard to get back into the team. So I think 5 million is too expensive, and given their fixtures, I wouldn't want to play him anyway. So I'd just save the money, put it on my bench, and spend that 0.5 million elsewhere. So that's it for this video. Let me know if you agree below. Are these players to avoid, and who's on your hit list of players you're just absolutely not putting in your squad, either because they're just not going to get very many points or they're completely overpriced? Let me know in the comments below. If you did enjoy it, like I said at the start of the video, make sure to give it a like, much appreciated. Going to try and get to 1,000 on this one. And obviously if you're new, subscribe, hit that bell and you'll be notified for the next video. I'm trying to get a video out every other day in pre-season. We'll see how that goes. It's quite tricky to do that, but I'm going to give it my best shot. And then there might be a couple of streams here or there as well. Other than that, when the season starts, there'll be the normal content weekly. So make sure to subscribe, leave a like if you enjoyed it, comment below, and I'll catch you on the next video. Cheers all. If you did enjoy this video or you want to support the channel even further, then I do have a Patreon page set up, which you can find in the link in the description below. There's a few different tiers, which I won't go into too much here, but one of them gets you Slack access, so that's with all the other Patreons. We just chat about FPL in general. Chit chat, so that's open right now, being talked about over the summer, building teams and things like that. There's actually no charge for Patreon until August 1st. That's when the mini leagues start up in August. So if you just want to join up now and get invited to Slack and see how it is, and obviously if you don't like it, you can cancel. If not, you can just carry on. And the mini leagues reset every month, so even if you're having a bad season, there'll be a new mini league code every single month to try and get some winnings. So if you want to check that out, link in the description below, or send me a message, and hopefully I'll see you over there soon.